McCuistion, talking about things that matter with people who care. Production of McCuistion is made possible in part by individual viewers, supporters of the Foundation for Responsible Television, Collin County Business Press, locally relevant, personally profitable, Sundown Ranch, one sundown at a time. CF & Company, LLP, a certified public accounting and consulting firm serving Dallas, Fort Worth, and the Southwest since 1956. The Meadows Foundation, serving the people of Dallas. And by the Dallas Business Journal, connecting you to your next opportunity. Who do you want to meet today? Go to DallasBusinessJournal.com.
Over the last 20 years, we've taped hours of programs on education and the children. Our country got a wake-up call in 1983 with the publication of a paper entitled A Nation at Risk. This was a report from President Ronald Reagan's National Commission on Excellence in Education, and one of its conclusions was this: if an unfriendly foreign power had attempted to impose on America the mediocre education performance that exists today, we might well have viewed it as an act of war. Now, on most issues, we've adopted a format that says, what's the problem? What caused it? What are the alternatives? And how can I get involved? Education and children's issues are no different. A Nation at Risk defined the problem. So let's look at a clip from economist Walter Williams talking about one of the causes.
In the 1940s, when I was going to school, what did teachers complain about? They complained about chewing gum in class, passing notes, running in the hallways. What's the school? They were the school problems then. What are the school problems today? Rape, assault, murder, drugs. We have to ask ourselves, what has happened in the interim where we have generated this kind of thing that your parents and my parents or our great-grandparents, they would be shocked at. If I were the imperial wizard of the Ku Klux Klan and I wanted to make black academic excellence impossible, I could not think of a better way to accomplish that goal than the current public school system.
One of our favorite books was written by Temple University professor Lawrence Steinberg, and many of you here may have read it. It's entitled Beyond the Classroom, Why School Reform Has Failed, and also What Parents Need to Do About It. Now, that book was written 20 years ago. Let's hear what he had to say in 2001.
Well, but, the conservatives tend to say we need to have better standards, higher standards, more testing, hold schools accountable, hold kids accountable to these tests, and we need to invest money in developing tests and implementing them and so on. The liberals say, no, what we need are smaller class sizes and better compensated teachers and more resources for schools, and the reason kids aren't achieving is that we're not spending enough money on education. And I think that both are wrong, because the issue really isn't, I think, completely determined by what we do in the classroom. I think that the reason the school reform movement has failed is that we have not really looked at the broader forces that affect the way that kids achieve, their motivation to achieve, their attitudes toward achievement, and so on. And I think if you ask most teachers what the biggest problem they face is, they will not tell you that it's a lack of books or money in their classroom. They will tell you that it is facing a classroom of kids who aren't interested in being there, who have parents who don't support the school, kids who have attitudes and values that are antithetical to doing well in school. And money from the federal government is not going to solve that problem.
Well, more than half haven't had breakfast because I ask them every morning. They are lethargic or they're hyperactive. They don't want to be there. And I'm supposed to sit these people down and really entertain them to even get their attention, which I do for a while. I entertain. I've been known to climb up on my desk and do a dance.
Well,
I shouldn't have to do that at my age.
I was going to say, well, she shouldn't have to do that at her age, but as we know, some people have to do that. You know, we're going to talk about nutrition on a different program, but in fact, one of the things, she talked about not having breakfast, but a lot of kids don't eat right, and they drink things they shouldn't be drinking. And in fact, we have this epidemic of child obesity. We did a program on that relatively recently. Let's look at a small sample of what they had to say.
The consumption of sodas has increased by over 300% in the last 20 years. If you're as old as I am, you remember in the 1950s, a soda was 6 ounces, right? In the 1960s, it went up to 12 ounces. And then in the 1990s, it's gone up to 20 ounces. And what a lot of people don't understand is, or don't realize, is that one 12-ounce soda has the equivalent of 10 teaspoons of sugar in each soda.
Okay, let me stop you right there and ask you to repeat that statistic again for that person watching.
Each soda that one consumes has the equivalent of 10 teaspoons of sugar per soda, or 150 calories. And if a child drinks 2 sodas a day, every day for a year, one can easily gain an extra 30 pounds a year just from drinking those sodas.
You know, if it were just eating problems, it would be different as well. But unfortunately, one of the topics that we've looked at several times is child abuse. And I will never forget the call I received from a lady in Rochester, New York a few years ago. She and her family had escaped from Nazi Germany, and she had seen the program that we did on child abuse, and she called me, and she was crying, and she said, I can't believe what we're doing to our kids in America today. I'm going to show you a couple of clips, one of them having to do with child abuse, the other one with child sexual abuse. You won't like what you see, but unfortunately, that's where we are now.
Over 150,000 children were confirmed for child sexual abuse last year in our country alone. However, children do not often tell about their abuse. In fact, some research indicates that only 5% of all children that have been sexually abused tell about their abuse. And what we know clinically in terms of children coming through the door for treatment later in life is that 1 in 4 girls will be sexually abused before their 18th birthday, and about 1 in 7 boys. We thought it was 1 in 10 boys, but in fact, child abuse of boys is much greater than we at first thought. Basically, what children need is a therapist in a safe environment to be able to work out the issues of the sexual abuse, all the shame and the self-blame and the guilt that they feel, and feeling normal, that this isn't something that's going to scar them for life. So at the Children's Advocacy Center and several other treatment centers, we worked with kids in a play therapy environment, or if they're older, in a talk therapy, usually using cognitive behavioral therapy.
The scars are often emotional. Children may die or have injuries or suffer permanent disabilities, but they may suffer the bad interactions, have difficulty having normal, healthy relationships with other people. They may not do well in school because they're unsupported at home. There are some types of abuse that knock off a couple IQ points. Their development is affected, and they're not amenable to schooling because they cannot concentrate, because they're stressed and traumatized. And so the ultimate failings are the failure to have a good family life themselves, or to achieve in school and get jobs, and they may turn to addictions and repeat their own cycle that they grew up with.
And then there's the other problem that we haven't seen in the last few weeks or last few months, I'm happy to say, and that's the idea of school violence in the aftermath of what happened in Arkansas and Colorado, and of course at Virginia Tech.